Hi everyone! I've recently created a new legacy challenge called Mind Your Own Business, and I'm really excited to start. If you want to join in playing the challenge with me, you just click on the link in the description down below. It'll give you a little bit more about the rules and the details about the challenge. Now, before we start any gameplay, there's a little bit of prep work we need to do. Last week, we created our founder named Aster. If you remember correctly, I was having trouble coming up with a last name. Well, I finally came up with the perfect one. Monet. Aster Monet. It's kind of like money, but just a little bit more fancy. And with that, let's go into the speed build. As per the rules, we are allowed to live in any world as long as we stick to the starting fund. The whole point of the challenge is to make money, and hopefully lots of it. So I built Aster's home on a 20 by 20 lot in the Copperdale world, the one that came with the high school pack. I thought it would be cool if we lived near the pier, since Aster is going to be a musician and we could busk at the pier for tips. By the way, we will be starting with a violin, mostly because there's a blue swatch for it. Surprisingly, I found building a starter home quite difficult. When you have a budget, you have to alter that vision sometime. I have created starter homes before, but I guess it's been a while. As you can see, I was struggling with what kind of shape I wanted to do. Did I want a bigger home with less furnishing or a smaller home with more decor? I decided with the smaller home would be best for Aster since I want to make it as blue as possible. If you're wondering why blue, it's because the Mind Your Own Business Challenge is actually color coded. Of course, you don't have to, but I just think it's more fun. And the first generation Music Master is actually blue. I have recently been playing the Not So Berry challenge on my stream. I actually haven't gotten to the blue generation yet, so I don't know what kind of swatches or items we will be able to use, but I think that'll be part of the fun. Since I decided I want a smaller home, I figured we could just do a tiny home residential to get those extra buffs, because we all know they're super overpowered. Specifically, the one that helps increase skills quicker will be very good for Aster since we can't actually license music until we're a higher level. And that's the way we're supposed to make our money. So we definitely need that. As you can see, we have figured out the final shape of the house. The blue swatches for outdoor paneling was very limited, and a majority of it was kind of like a light grayish blue instead of a real blue, which wasn't exactly what I was going for. Thankfully, the Growing Together pack came with a really good blue and some cute windows to bring the whole build together. I also struggled with figuring out the details of the exterior. I knew I wanted a black because Aster's whole vibe was blue and black, kind of like a bruise. But unfortunately, the blacks in this game, the swatches never match. They're either like too gray or too blue. Either way, all of the blacks, they just don't match in this game at all. Since the house is so small and all on one level, the floor plan actually came together pretty quickly. I had to be careful to not expand too much while adjusting the floor plan so I wouldn't lose the buffs from the tiny home. The bathroom was definitely the most awkward to put in, kind of eats up part of the bedroom, but I figured some scooching would work. I would be able to get everything in while allowing space for the sim to walk around. The interior blue swatches were honestly probably worse than the exterior ones. All the blues seemed to never match, and even though it was supposed to be all one color, I wanted to add a variety so it would be a little bit more interesting. It took me a while, but eventually I was able to get the right swatches, I think. In the living room, I don't know why, but the first item I picked was actually a fireplace, but I guess it was super important to me. It was probably because last week was Christmas Day, and my fiance's father always insists on starting a fire, which honestly, I'm not going to complain about. I really enjoy our Christmas tradition. It's super cozy, and I honestly wouldn't change them for the world. It's so funny, actually. It was pretty warm out, and one of my sister-in-laws got herself rollerblades for Christmas, and rolling back and forth was pretty funny because someone had to be with her the entire time to make sure she wouldn't fall since she didn't know how to brake with them. But like I said, it was pretty great. Anyway, once I was able to get the wallpaper down, everything else kind of came together pretty easily. I absolutely love the bed that came with Horse Ranch. It just looks so good. Like the fabric looks like it's actually draping down, unlike the beds that we already have. Not all of them are bad, but the base game ones, they're so rigid. You know what I mean? Not great. As you can see, I really didn't hold back on the decor. I actually used all of our money. The grind next week is going to be very real. When we were working on the kitchen, that I realized we were low on funds, and I was not sure if we would be able to furnish our living room. But I figured if that were the case, it would be okay because we could pretend that Aster just moved out of their parents' house and they brought everything from their bedroom, but are still saving up to furnish their rest of their home, like a couch or a computer. So I think it would just work out. But thankfully, that actually wasn't the case. I used this custom content couch that looks like a pretty generic couch, but still had a better fabric than the blue ones that they had in the game. Just like I mentioned before, they're just very rigid, and I prefer to use CC that looks comfy. I was surprised at how much I was able to put into the living room with the money we had. There are still areas that need stuff on the walls, but we will just like save up for that kind of stuff and decorate as we go. Since we were restricted on the budget, I figured we would leave landscaping to the end. That way we can use debug if we needed to. But I'm not gonna lie, I did buy some plants, mostly because I wanted them to be blue to match the aesthetic. Also, I just think they're pretty and I think it worked out just okay. I think the build took me about an hour, which really isn't that much compared to how many hours or days I spent on builds before. I think the longest is probably 4 or 5 days, but I might be kidding myself because there are definitely times where I'll start a build and put it down and come back to it, and that might take weeks to actually completely finish. Now that we're coming to the end of the build, I am mostly just working with terrain paint tool to help bring everything together. After buying all the plants, we were down to very, very little money. So I'm really glad that I bought the violin ahead of time. Otherwise, we would have been in very big trouble. And with that, let's jump into the game so we can get a closer look. I personally think the house came out pretty good. I think the landscaping isn't as bad as I thought it would end up as. I could have used more plants, but I don't know, the debug menu was a lot. Since it's so small, there's not much to see. Everything's very bland and very blue. But once we save up, we can add more art to it. I think I spent most of the art decor in the bathroom. Maybe it's a good thing because it's very noticeable and stands out the most since everything else is so monotone. Here is the kitchen. Ta-da! Very small, very petite. I think it's a great starter home. And I think Aster will be very happy here. I actually had a lot of fun building this. I know that at first I was like struggling because I had no idea what I wanted to look like. But once that was done, it was easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I think that we'll have a lot of fun living here with Aster. Like I said, I'm really glad that we live near the pier. Maybe we can spend a lot of time there, as I normally don't go there unless it's for prom reasons in my gameplay. So I think it'd be cool to be able to go there for different reasons. I'm really, really excited to play this challenge with you all, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. We'll be starting our gameplay next week, but until then, I hope you guys have a great day. Bye! I have a confession to make. I originally forgot a sink. I had to sell the bedroom lamp so I could afford it. Shh, don't tell anyone.